Lyra stood near the tall glass windows of Station Aurelian, watching hundreds of travelers move across the shining metal platforms. Every species came here: traders, diplomats, explorers, and workers hoping for a better future. The bright lights reflected off her skin, creating soft glimmers across the long scars that ran along the right side of her face. On her homeworld, the Selvari saw such marks as symbols of courage, but out here, far from her people, they only brought her rejection. She adjusted the small silver band on her wrist and breathed slowly. She had practiced her speech for days, memorized the diplomatic points, and prepared herself to speak with confidence. Today she was supposed to meet different interplanetary groups and convince them that her people deserved support in rebuilding their damaged territories. She had been chosen because she understood other cultures well, because she spoke calmly, and because she carried the heart of someone who never gave up. But now, standing in the middle of the station's trade chamber, she wondered if she should have come at all. Several eyes were already on her. Not warm eyes, not curious eyes. Just cold stares filled with quiet judgment. Lyra lowered her gaze and stepped away from a group that shifted uncomfortably when she approached. She did not need to hear their words to understand what they were thinking. Many species considered scars a sign of contamination or weakness. To them, Lyra looked damaged. Two Selvari from her own delegation stood across the room, speaking happily with a group of merchants. They had invited Lyra to join earlier but quickly changed direction when they noticed some aliens staring at her scars. They did not try to insult her, but they did something worse: they pretended she was not part of them. Lyra had faced this before. She told herself not to take it personally, but the familiar sting pushed its way into her chest. She pressed her hand softly to her scarred cheek, feeling the faint warmth that always came when she remembered the past. These scars were not accidents. They were reminders of the day she saved a group of Selvari children from a pirate attack. She had carried them with pride for years. But pride was harder to keep when every glance from strangers made her feel small. The council event was about to begin. Lyra gathered her strength and walked toward the main hall. She took a slow breath, straightened her posture, and tried to focus on the glowing screens showing various alliance projects. It was a chance to speak, to explain, to show that her people had something valuable to offer. But trouble started before she even reached the center of the hall. Two merchants from a tall reptilian species stopped talking when she passed by. One of them made a sharp clicking noise, the sound they used for sarcasm. "Look at that one," he whispered loudly to his companion. "Has she walked through fire?" The other laughed. "No one would want to work with someone who looks ready to fall apart." Lyra froze. Their voices were not truly loud, but they were loud enough for several others to hear. She looked down, trying to hide her face, and moved forward. Maybe if she ignored them, the moment would pass. But the first merchant followed with another comment, crueler than the last. "Scars like that? No wonder her own people stay away." Scars like that. Something inside Lyra tightened. She felt heat behind her eyes but forced herself not to cry. She had faced storms, battles, and near death. She would not cry in a hall full of strangers. She tried to keep walking, but her legs felt heavy, and her heart felt even heavier. Then another voice cut through the noise. "Enough." It was a simple word, spoken calmly, but it carried more strength than all the merchants' laughter combined. Everyone turned to see who had spoken. A human man stepped forward. He walked with steady, confident steps, not rushed, not aggressive, just certain. His dark hair fell slightly over his forehead, and his clean, well-structured features made him stand out even among dozens of species. Most people on the station recognized him immediately. He was Adrian Vale, the starship engineer known for repairing impossible engines and designing new ones with skill that even advanced species admired. Many called him the most handsome man on the station, but Adrian never behaved as if he cared about such titles. He stopped next to Lyra, slightly forward, as if ready to shield her if necessary. His eyes, calm and sharp, focused directly on the two merchants. "She heard you," he said. "Everyone did. And you should be ashamed of your words." The reptilian merchants stiffened. They were not used to being confronted. "We were only speaking truth," one muttered. Adrian shook his head. "No. You were speaking cruelty." Her scars show that she survived something you probably would not. That is strength, not weakness. Some nearby travelers shifted uncomfortably. Others lowered their eyes, suddenly realizing they had been silently agreeing with the merchant's judgment. Lyra stood frozen, surprised by the human's unexpected defense. No one else had ever spoken for her like that. Adrian turned slightly to face her. His voice softened, warm but respectful. "Are you all right?" Lyra swallowed gently. I am fine. Thank you." He nodded, as if he understood more than her simple words revealed. Then he looked back at the merchants with steady confidence. Beauty does not vanish because of scars, and courage does not hide just because someone else refuses to see it. The hall fell silent. The merchants stepped back reluctantly, muttering something under their breath, then moved away. Adrian stayed still until they were gone. Only then did he relax his shoulders. Lyra felt her heart beating fast, not from fear but from something else entirely, something like relief mixed with surprise. She opened her mouth to speak, but for a moment nothing came out. No one had ever stood beside her like that. Certainly no one admired on a station as much as Adrian Vale. "You didn't have to defend me," she finally said. He smiled a little. "Maybe not. But I wanted to." Lyra lowered her eyes. "People often say I look frightening." "I don't see anything frightening," Adrian replied softly. "I see someone who carries marks of survival. That's worth respect." His words were simple, but they hit deeper than anything she had heard in years. She felt warmth spreading through her chest, like sunlight touching cold stone. Adrian extended a hand toward her. "I'm Adrian, Lyra," she said quietly, placing her hand in his. She expected him to hesitate at the touch of her scarred skin, but he did not even glance at it. His handshake was gentle and steady. "They shouldn't have spoken to you that way," Adrian said. "You came here for something important, didn't you?" Lyra nodded. "My people need help. We lost much during the last attacks. I hope to speak with different alliances." She hesitated, thinking of her delegation. "But it seems no one wants to hear me." Adrian shook his head. "They will. You just met the wrong crowd first." His confidence felt like a protective shield around her. She had spent years telling herself she did not need anyone's approval, that she was strong on her own, but being defended, truly defended, felt like breathing after holding her breath for too long. A soft alarm tone sounded across the hall, announcing the next round of meetings. People began to move in different directions. Adrian glanced at the doors ahead. "If you don't mind, I can walk with you," he offered. "Crowds don't scare me. Crowds don't scare me." Lyra felt her lips curve into a small, unexpected smile. "I would like that." They walked side by side, and the hall seemed less hostile with him beside her. She noticed how calmly he moved, how he never looked away from her when she spoke, how he seemed more concerned about her comfort than about the attention they attracted. Some people whispered when they saw Adrian walking with her. Some looked confused. Some even looked impressed. But none of it mattered to Lyra. All she felt was a strange sense of safety she had not experienced in years. When they reached the entrance of the meeting hall, Adrian paused. "If you need support inside, I can stay." "You have your own work," Lyra said softly. "I do," Adrian agreed. "But right now, making sure you're treated with respect feels more important." Her breath caught. No one had ever said such a thing to her. A group of officials entered the hall, and she realized she needed to join them soon. She tightened her grip on the folder in her hands. Before stepping inside, she turned to him. "Thank you," she said. "Not just for defending me, but for seeing me." Adrian's expression softened, his eyes warm and steady. "Anyone can see you, Lyra. They just need to look properly." She held his gaze for a moment. Something in her chest felt lighter, gentler, almost hopeful. Then she stepped into the hall. As she walked away, she noticed the whispers fading behind her. She felt Adrian's quiet presence, like a memory of strength. And for the first time since she arrived on the station, she did not feel invisible. She did not yet know why Adrian Vale had stepped forward for her. She did not know how deeply he had been struck by the quiet courage in her eyes. She did not know that he had already begun to think about her long after she disappeared into the hall. All she knew was that someone had seen her differently, and that single moment was enough to change the path of her story. Adrian waited outside the meeting hall longer than he planned. He told himself he should return to his work, but his feet refused to move. Something about Lyra stayed in his mind, the quiet strength in her voice, the way she stood alone even when everyone ignored her, and the courage behind the scars she carried. He had seen many people on the station, but none had held his attention the way she did. Inside the hall, Lyra tried to focus on her presentation. She spoke clearly, explained her people's needs, and shared the hope of rebuilding the destroyed Selvari regions. But every time her eyes passed over the crowd, she noticed officials looking away or pretending to be busy. A few nodded politely, but most did not ask questions. No one openly insulted her the way the merchants had, but she could feel an invisible wall in the air. When the session ended, she walked out slowly, her shoulders tense. Adrian saw her and stepped forward at once. "How did it go?" he asked gently. Lyra gave a small shrug. They listened, but listening is not the same as caring. Adrian could see the disappointment behind her calm expression. Did anyone agree to help? One group asked for documents. Another asked for more time to think. She smiled sadly. "But I do not think they truly want to join our cause." Adrian studied her face for a moment. She looked tired, but not defeated. He admired that. Most people would have given up long ago. "You did your best," he said. "Sometimes, change starts slow." Lyra nodded. "I know. I just hoped maybe today would be different." They stood in silence for a moment before Adrian gestured toward a quiet corridor nearby. "Come with me. There's a place on the station where the lights dim to simulate night. It's peaceful. Maybe it will help." Lyra hesitated, then agreed. They walked side by side, passing through busy areas into quieter ones. The artificial sky above shifted from bright gold to soft blue, and then into a dark, star-like display. The floor glowed gently under their steps. For a while, neither of them spoke. Lyra felt her heart soften in the silence. She had spent so much of her life fighting to be understood that simply walking beside someone who respected her felt like a gift she hadn't expected. "You handled the merchants very calmly earlier," Lyra said finally. Adrian smiled lightly. "I've learned that calmness can be stronger than anger." "You were stronger than both," she said quietly. "I have never seen someone step forward like that." He looked at her with gentle eyes. "You shouldn't have to fight alone." A warm feeling rose in her chest again. She didn't know why the words touched her so deeply. Maybe because they came from someone who had no reason to help her. He didn't know her people. He didn't gain anything from defending her. Yet he had done it anyway. They walked until they reached the observation deck. A large glass dome arched above them, showing the stars outside. The soft lights reflected off Lyra's scars, making them shimmer faintly. She touched her cheek without thinking. "Sometimes I forget they are there," she said quietly. "Other times, I feel like the whole universe sees nothing else." Adrian turned to face her completely. "I saw you before I saw the scars." She blinked in surprise. "You did?" "Yes. You walked into the hall with purpose. You carried yourself like someone who refuses to quit, no matter how hard things get." He paused, choosing his words slowly. "The scars came after. They didn't define you." Lyra lowered her gaze, touched by his sincerity. "You speak as if you understand." "I do," he said softly. "More than you think." Before she could ask what he meant, movement in the shadows behind them caught Adrian's eye. He stepped forward, scanning the dark corners of the deck. Lyra followed his gaze. A group of figures detached themselves from the shadows, silent, armored, and moving with dangerous precision. Lyra felt her stomach twist as she recognized them. Pirates. The same faction that had attacked her planet. Her breath caught. "They found me." Adrian's body shifted instantly, every muscle alert. "Stay behind me." The pirates spread out, blocking the exits. Their leader stepped closer, his metallic voice echoing through the chamber. "Lyra of the Selvari, you carry something that does not belong to you." Lyra pressed a hand to the small device hidden under her clothes, the diplomatic crystal containing evidence of the pirates' crimes. "You will hand it over," the leader continued, "and come with us." Adrian took one step forward. "She's not going anywhere with you." The leader tilted his head. "A human? Do you plan to stop us alone?" Adrian's eyes narrowed. "If I must." Before the pirate leader could respond, one of the attackers lunged forward with a stun weapon. Lyra gasped, but Adrian moved faster than she expected. He grabbed her arm and pulled her aside, then turned sharply, kicking the attacker back with a clean, practiced motion. Two more pirates charged. Adrian intercepted one with a sharp elbow strike and dodged the other's swing. He moved with experience, controlled, efficient, calm. Lyra realized he had undergone military or tactical training before becoming an engineer, but there were too many pirates. Even with his skill, Adrian couldn't cover every angle at once. One pirate fired a stun blast. Without thinking, Adrian turned his body and took the hit on his shoulder. He staggered back, teeth clenched from the impact. "Adrian!" Lyra reached for him. "I'm fine," he said through a tight breath. "Stay low." The pirates regrouped. Their leader raised his weapon toward Lyra again, but Lyra was not helpless. She stepped forward, holding her wristband tightly. Selvari technology responded to her energy signature. A soft blue field formed around her hand. She thrust her palm forward, sending a shockwave that pushed two attackers backward. Adrian stared in awe for a moment. "Remind me not to underestimate you." Lyra almost smiled. "Only if you stop getting hurt for me." They stood back to back instinctively as the pirates circled. Adrian defended the left side, Lyra the right. Their movements synchronized naturally, her energy blasts combined with his precise strikes. The pirates grew frustrated as their formation broke. Finally, the leader signaled retreat. "This isn't finished," he growled, before disappearing into the shadows with the rest of his crew. When the danger passed, Lyra rushed to Adrian's side. He pressed a hand against his injured shoulder but still tried to stand tall. "You took a blast meant for me," Lyra whispered. "Why?" Adrian looked at her with a soft but steady expression. "Because your life matters. Because you didn't deserve to face that alone." His voice lowered. "And because losing you, even though we just met, felt wrong." Her heart tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. "You need medical care," she said firmly. "I can handle it," he replied. "You handled enough," she insisted gently. "Come with me." Adrian hesitated, then nodded. Lyra helped him walk toward the inner corridors. But as they moved, her worry grew. The pirates had found her once they would find her again. Her delegation would not protect her. The diplomatic crystal was too important to leave unguarded, and she had nowhere safe to stay on this station. Adrian seemed to read her thoughts. "If you need a place," he said quietly, "you can stay on my starship. It's secure. And until the pirates are caught, you shouldn't be alone." Lyra stopped walking and looked at him. "Are you sure? This danger should not fall on you." Adrian met her gaze. "You didn't choose this danger either. Let me help." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she nodded with a soft breath. "I trust you." Adrian's expression softened at the words. He placed his hand gently over hers. "Then come with me." They continued toward the docking bay. For the first time in days, Lyra felt the weight on her heart ease. She still feared the pirates. She still feared rejection. But standing beside Adrian, someone who saw her as more than her scars, she felt a small spark of hope. She did not know what awaited them next. But she knew one thing clearly. She was no longer alone. Adrian's starship, the Silver Wing, rested quietly at the far end of the docking bay. Lyra followed beside him, her steps slow but steady, helping him whenever his injured shoulder made him wince. The ship was not large, but its polished hull and glowing blue lines showed it had been cared for with patience and skill. Lyra felt a strange comfort just standing near it, as if the ship itself carried Adrian's calm nature. He opened the ramp and motioned for her to enter first. Lyra stepped inside, and her eyes widened slightly at the warm lights, soft metal surfaces, and shelves filled with tools and small plants. It felt less like a machine and more like a home. "You live here?" she asked softly. "For now," Adrian said, lifting his uninjured arm with a small smile. "It's quiet. And it listens better than people." Lyra smiled faintly at that. She watched him walk toward the medical kit stored near the cockpit. She could tell he was trying not to show pain. She followed him quickly. "Sit," she said gently. "Let me help." Adrian hesitated for a second, then sat down. Lyra opened the medical kit and carefully examined his wound. The blast had burned through his jacket, leaving a dark red mark on his skin. She cleaned it with soft movements, afraid to hurt him. "You are very good at this," Adrian said lightly, trying to distract her from worrying. "I had to learn," Lyra replied. "My people use simple healing energy, but not all wounds can be treated that way." "Still," he said with a gentle laugh, "you work as if you've been doing this for years." Her lips curved into a small smile. "Maybe I have." As she placed a bandage over his shoulder, Adrian watched her quietly. Her movements were calm. Her expression softened when she focused. Even her scars glowed faintly under the soft ship lights. Adrian found himself studying her face not with pity or curiosity, but with quiet admiration. When she finished, she stepped back. "There," she said. "It will hurt less after some rest." Adrian nodded. "Thank you. You didn't need to do all that. You protected me," she replied, her voice low but firm. "I wanted to protect you too." The words made the room feel warm. They sat in silence for a moment, letting the quiet hum of the ship settle around them. Then Lyra's expression changed, a shadow of worry returning. "The pirates will not stop," she said. "They want the crystal. They want to hide their crimes. And they know I have the evidence." Adrian leaned back slightly, his eyes thoughtful. "Then we need to make sure the right people get that evidence before the pirates come again." Lyra nodded. "The Galactic Council meets tomorrow. If I can reach them, they will listen." Adrian tapped the control screen beside him. "Then we'll go early. My ship can fly under radar for a short time. It'll be safer than walking through the station." Lyra let out a soft breath of relief. "Thank you for everything." Adrian looked at her gently. "You don't need to thank me." But she did. Not only for the protection, but for the simple kindness. Something she had forgotten existed. As night simulation settled deeper over the station, Lyra grew quiet. She sat down near the window of the ship, watching distant stars flicker like tiny worlds waiting to be discovered. Adrian joined her, sitting close enough that she felt his presence but not close enough to overwhelm her. "You said earlier that you understood scars," Lyra said softly. "What did you mean?" Adrian rested his hands loosely in his lap. "When I was younger, I worked on a large transport ship. One day, a reactor malfunctioned. The room exploded before we could escape." He paused, remembering the bright flash, the heat, the panic. "I threw myself over 2 technicians. They survived. I didn't walk away unharmed." Lyra turned toward him, her eyes wide. "You had scars too?" "Yes, long ones across my back and side." He gave a small shrug. "Human medicine removed them. But for months, I carried fear. Not of pain, but of being seen differently." Her heart tightened. She had never imagined such a history behind his calm smile. "So when I saw you being judged," Adrian continued, "I remembered that feeling. The feeling of being treated like something broken." He looked into her eyes. "But you're not broken, Lyra. You're one of the strongest people I've met." Her breath caught. She turned her face slightly, suddenly shy. But his words settled deep inside her. Silence filled the room again, comfortable, warm. Hours later, they both drifted into light rest. Lyra slept first, peacefully curled near the window. Adrian watched her for a moment before closing his eyes. Her presence felt like something rare, something he didn't want to lose. Morning came quickly. The ship lights brightened automatically. Adrian woke first, checked the systems, and then gently called her name. Lyra opened her eyes slowly, her mind still heavy with dreams. "Are you ready?" Adrian asked. She nodded, smoothing her clothes. "I'm ready." He activated the controls, and the silver wing lifted off the docking bay floor with a soft hum. Lyra watched the metal walls of the station fade as they flew toward the council sector. Everything seemed quiet, too quiet. Her heart beat faster. Halfway through the route, the ship's alarm sounded. Adrian's eyes snapped to the radar. "We have company!" 2 pirate ships appeared behind them, sleek, fast, and armed. Lyra's pulse quickened. "They found us again." Adrian pressed several buttons, shifting flight patterns. "Hold on. I'll lose them." The silver wing dashed through narrow corridors between station structures. The pirates followed closely, firing shots that shook the ship. Lyra held the seat tightly, trying to steady her breath. Adrian moved with sharp focus. His hands glided over controls, tilting and spinning the ship with skill that Lyra hadn't imagined. But the pirates were fast. One blast struck the tail of the silver wing. The ship trembled violently. "Adrian," Lyra cried. "I'm okay," he said, tightening his grip. "But we can't outrun them forever." Lyra's fingers touched the diplomatic crystal under her clothing. The evidence inside could stop the pirates' operations across several systems. It could save thousands of lives. "We must reach the council," she said, her voice steady. "We will," Adrian replied. He handed her a small control orb. "This connects to the ship's energy field. You can strengthen our defense with your Selvari energy, right?" Lyra nodded. "Yes." Adrian pulled the silver wing into a sharp turn. The pirates came closer. Lyra closed her eyes and focused. Energy flowed through her fingers, glowing soft blue. The ship's shield brightened, blocking the next blast. "Good," Adrian said, impressed. "Keep going." Together they flew and defended, each movement synchronized more naturally than they expected. Adrian guided the ship with bold precision, and Lyra strengthened the shields with her calm, controlled energy. One pirate ship fired a heavy blast. Lyra poured more energy into the shield, and the impact scattered into sparks. Adrian smiled slightly. "You're incredible." She didn't answer, too focused to speak. Finally, the council tower appeared ahead, a tall structure with glowing rings that pulsed like a beacon. Adrian aimed for the docking port. The pirates, realizing they were losing, tried one final attack. Both ships fired at once. Lyra cried out, forcing her last reserve of energy into the shield. The ship shook, but held strong. Adrian pushed the engines to maximum, and they crossed into the council's protected zone. Defense drones surrounded them instantly. The pirate ships turned away, unwilling to engage. Lyra collapsed back into her seat, exhausted. Adrian placed a hand on her arm, his touch gentle. "You did it," he said softly. "You saved us." "No," she whispered, breathing hard. "We saved each other." They landed inside the council bay. Guards rushed toward them. Lyra stepped out first, holding the crystal tightly. Adrian stayed close beside her. Inside the hall, Lyra presented the evidence to the council. The crystal projected recordings of pirate attacks, stolen supplies, and hidden operations. The council members reacted with shock and anger, demanding immediate action. Lyra spoke calmly, her voice steady despite the exhaustion. She explained everything she had witnessed. This time, no one looked away. No one ignored her. Her scars, shining faintly in the bright council chamber, became symbols of truth rather than shame. When she finished, the entire hall stood in respect. After the session, her delegation approached her, praising her courage. But Lyra politely stepped back. She no longer needed their approval. She knew where her true support had come from. She walked outside the hall and found Adrian waiting for her. He stood tall despite his injury, his eyes warm with pride. "It's done," she said softly. "You were amazing," he replied. Lyra stepped closer. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence held a gentle feeling neither wanted to break. Finally, Adrian reached out and touched the unscarred side of her face softly, his fingers brushing her skin with care. "Your scars never hid your beauty," he whispered. "They only showed how strong you are." Her eyes glistened. "And you," she whispered back. Showed me that I still deserve to be seen. Adrian smiled softly. You always deserved it. Lyra took his hand in hers. She felt finally understood, finally valued, finally whole, the rejected alien woman, the admired human man. Two beings from different worlds, but their hearts, unexpectedly, had found the same place. And their story, far from ending here, was just beginning.